The night had settled over downtown Chicago, casting a quiet hush over the towering glass buildings. Inside one of the city's most powerful tech companies, the hallways were nearly empty, except for the gentle hum of fluorescent lights and the soft squeak of a mop on polished marble floors. James Coleman moved quietly through the corridor, pushing his cart, a familiar rhythm to his every step. No one really noticed him, but that was fine. He had become used to being invisible. A single dad and widower, James had taken this janitor job to keep food on the table and his daughter Lily in school. Life had thrown him off course years ago when his wife passed away, and he had shelved his dreams of becoming a computer engineer. Now, he worked nights, cleaned up after executives, and returned home in the early morning to make Lily breakfast before school. As he worked, a bright screen on the digital notice board caught his eye. Urgent, $100 million launch glitch, engineers stumped. He paused, staring at the message, then shook his head and continued sweeping. It wasn't his world anymore. But as he entered one of the tech meeting rooms to empty trash bins, he noticed the whiteboard had been left full of scrawled code and diagrams. Something tugged at him, a memory, an instinct. He walked closer, scanning the patterns. It didn't look right. Something was off. He couldn't explain why, but his hands itched to fix it. James stood in the doorway of the dimly lit conference room, eyes locked on the maze of code scribbled across the whiteboard. Something deep inside him stirred, like waking up an old part of himself that had long been buried under years of loss and routine. He stepped closer, careful not to disturb anything, but his mind was already at work. The scrawl of logic and functions wasn't foreign to him. Before life fell apart, he used to spend hours solving problems just like this in college. His eyes narrowed. Amid the chaos of variables and loops, a small line stuck out, subtle, but wrong. A single misstep in logic, so easy to overlook but powerful enough to bring an entire system crashing down. His heart quickened. James glanced around. The room was empty, and the silence dared him to do something. With a shaky hand, he opened a nearby laptop that had been left on standby. It felt strange typing again, but his fingers remembered. In moments, he rewrote the faulty line, corrected the logic, and ran a test. The code executed, flawlessly. The bug vanished. For a moment, James just stared at the screen, stunned. A simple fix, one that had stumped an entire department. Reality hit. He wasn't supposed to be here. Nervously, he wiped the board clean, closed the laptop, and returned to his cart. He never meant to be seen. But what he didn't know was that the system had already logged everything. The sun rose over the city, casting golden rays through the towering windows of the company's executive boardroom. Tension gripped the air as the leadership team gathered, faces tight with worry. The $100 million software glitch had halted their biggest launch, and no one had found a solution. Sleepless nights, pressure from investors, and an impending deadline loomed over every person in that room. Suddenly, the lead engineer burst through the door, breathless. "It's fixed," she said, eyes wide. "The bug is gone." A wave of confusion spread around the table. "Who did it?" someone asked. She hesitated, then said, "It wasn't any of us. The system logs show, it was James Coleman." Silence. Confused glances. "Who's James Coleman?" the CEO asked. "Janitor," she replied softly. Laughter flickered, nervous, uncertain. "You're telling me the janitor solved the problem our best couldn't?" The CEO stood, his curiosity piqued. "Bring him in. Right now." Moments later, James was called up from the lower floors. Still in his navy blue uniform, with cleaning gloves tucked in his belt, he entered the room nervously. He'd never been in this part of the building before. Eyes followed him, some skeptical, some amused, some intrigued. He stood quietly, unsure of what he'd done wrong. The CEO studied him. "James, did you touch our system last night? James nodded, hesitant. I just saw something that looked off. I didn't mean any harm. The room fell into stunned silence, the weight of realization just beginning to settle in. The boardroom, moments ago buzzing with disbelief, had turned silent. All eyes were fixed on James, the janitor who stood awkwardly near the conference table, still gripping the edge of his cleaning cart. He looked out of place in a room full of tailored suits and polished shoes, but his presence now carried a gravity no one could ignore. The CEO, a man known for his no-nonsense demeanor, stepped forward. So let me get this straight, he said, voice low but intense. You spotted the error. Corrected the code. And didn't tell anyone? James nodded slowly. I didn't think I had the right to. I studied programming before my wife passed. I had to leave school to raise my daughter. I just wanted to help. A hush fell over the room. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the CEO looked around the table, the weight of what had happened hitting him all at once. He saved our entire launch. Saved us $100 million. And he did it because he cared, not because he was asked. He turned back to James and did something no one expected, he started clapping. Slowly at first, but with conviction. Then others joined. Executives, engineers, even the cynical board members. James stood frozen, eyes glassy, heart racing. You reminded us, the CEO said, that talent doesn't always come with a title. And sometimes, the greatest solutions come from the quietest corners. For the first time in years, James felt seen, not as a janitor, but as a man of worth. A week later, the company's large atrium was transformed into a celebration space, packed with employees from every department. Banners hung from the ceilings, and on stage, a spotlight beamed down on the most unexpected guest of honor, James Coleman. Dressed not in his janitor uniform but in a simple suit, he stood beside the CEO, holding his daughter Lily's hand, both of them overwhelmed by the moment. The CEO took the microphone, his voice carrying across the crowd. A man who saved our company didn't come from a corner office. He came from the night shift. He came from love, from humility, and from doing the right thing even when no one's watching. He paused, then turned to James. Today, we honor that. Cheers erupted as the CEO announced that James would be awarded a full scholarship to complete his computer science degree, promoted to a software role on the engineering team, and granted flexible hours to prioritize his daughter's care. It wasn't just a reward, it was a new beginning. With encouragement from the crowd, James stepped up to the mic. His voice trembled but carried strength. I never did this expecting anything. I just wanted to do what was right. If you ever feel invisible, don't stop believing in your worth. Sometimes, the world just hasn't caught up to your light yet. Tears-filled eyes, applause thundered. That day, James didn't just change his life, he reminded everyone watching what quiet courage and compassion can truly achieve.